All right. So just letting everybody know, this is the downtown safety meeting hosted by myself, City Councilman Steve McShane. You know, we're having this meeting in response to an uptick in crime last week, and we'll hear about that. We'll dive in as to the stats and what our downtown's undergoing. I know there's tremendous excitement for our downtown as there's been a lot of moves in the right direction, but certainly security for our businesses, our guests, residents of downtown is super important. And so with that in mind, just setting the stage for what will be 60 minutes. We have several guests and individuals that are going to give us a bit of a greeting, but more importantly, dive into what observations have been made, what solutions exist, and really what's being talked about here. So I'm going to start by introducing our mayor. She's very tuned in and very supportive of downtown, having served on council many years, but as a mayor, prioritizing infrastructure, safety and security, and good planning that fosters the type of environment we have downtown. So I'm going to turn it over to our mayor, Kimberly Craig, for a few words. The floor is yours, Mayor.
Thank you. And also I was a business owner in Old Town for quite some time. I shared an office with Marianne Guinness at the Guinness Agency. So certainly I know some of you were my neighbors for many, many years. I recognize that we are facing a real difficult challenge here, not only with the break-ins and the crime that's occurring in downtown, but also our homeless population. And just know that our city is taking a very direct approach. We are creating a housing first model, meaning if we can get our homeless populations into housing, they are far more likely to accept the other services, the drug rehabilitation, the alcohol rehabilitation, the mental health services in general, if we can get them into housing. And so we have not been able to offer that in the past. And I know that we are certainly talking about downtown, but I do think that the two are inextricably linked. And so I just want to, address the elephant in the room and understand that this council is providing those services now for our homeless population. And so really the next step in this discussion is we have the services that you can provide, that we are providing for you, but you cannot continue to stay here. You cannot continue to sleep here. You cannot continue to camp here. And I think as we, in the next upcoming weeks, you will see some changes throughout the city. Addressing the downtown directly, I have been burglarized. It is terrifying. It is awful. There's a sense of just invasion of privacy. And so my deepest, I'm really sorry about that. I mean, I know that that can be a devastating thing, particularly for a business owner that has struggled through the pandemic. So with that, I just want you to know that the city supports you and that we have all of the brass on this call just to make sure that we can do whatever we can to help you rebuild and to help you survive through this. So thank you very much for taking the time. I know we all have better things you want to do at 5:30 on a Thursday afternoon than be on a Zoom call, but it's an important topic and we're very grateful that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. You were extremely responsive to the 300 block, what Debbie and Carrie went through, and it's good to have you guys on the call. And not to mention Eric's golf clubs, snatched out of the back of his SUV. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I know we'll learn more and hear more. So thank you. As mentioned, for those of you that are just getting here, this is being recorded. This is our downtown safety and security meeting. Many questions have been emailed to me, which is great. I'll do my best to represent those during the appropriate time. And yeah, we'll just keep it moving. So thank you, Mayor. And with us is our city manager. He's been on the job over 6 months now. And boy, has he been responsive to the issues on this Zoom call. And so I do want to turn it over to our city manager, Steve Kerrigan, for a few words. Steve?
Thank you, and I'll be respectful of everyone's time and just get right to it. I'd like to just build on what the mayor said citywide on homelessness, and I'll drill down to the downtown area here very quickly. But on Monday, we're going to go into Chinatown. We have a project on Lake Street, but we'll be clearing out the California, Lake, and Soledad streets. We've done all the noticing, all the permitting. We've done everything right. The outreach teams have gone out there. We've done everything we need to do, and we're going to go in on Monday. Tuesday and Wednesday we'll be in Casantini, right there at Casantini in Maine. Same thing. We've talked to all the property owners. We've noticed. We've outreached to everything to death. So those 3 days we're going to be pretty busy doing that. In the downtown, we are going to make it a priority. We did about $9 million worth of improvements, and I think downtown looks great, but we still have a lot of work to do. The mayor and I met with the Methodist Church earlier this week. We're going to continue conversations with them, and I point them out because it's a fact, and I pointed it out to them the other day when we sat. There were 152 calls for service to that address. That's just, I'm identifying one today, and that's the one I picked. There's other areas that we're going to address also in the coming weeks. But I'm here to tell you as city manager, and I know Roberto Felice is here on the call also. I see him. We're going to make this a priority, and we're going to fix this because I think downtown's beautiful, and it just but it needs a little more fine tuning, and that's what we're here to do. So I want to assure you, I take this very seriously, and I know the police department does too. But I'll stop there. I know there's questions, but that's a good place for me to stop.
Thank you very much, City Manager Kerrigan. Appreciate that. And, for those of you that maybe just admitted, we do have a bit of an agenda. We're going to get through some presentations and brief words, and then we'll have some Q&A opportunity. Best to send any questions you have through the chat function. I want to just acknowledge Council Member Orlando Osornio. Thank you very much for joining. Really appreciate your attention to this important issue. So with that, I do want to acknowledge the SCCIA. Some know, some may not know. This is our Downtown Overlay District Governing Board that is responsible for an assessment collected on property owners for beautification, security, and other benefits to our downtown above and beyond what the city can already provide. Our SCCIA president is actually joined by the downtown, I call him commander. I mean, he'll be modest, and he's one of the security that addresses, security guards addresses downtown. That's Tyler. But please help me welcoming Steve Ish. He's the president of the SCCIA. I know we're joined by other SCCIA individuals. I see past President Kobrinsky Evans, but Steve, a few words from you, please.
Okay, I should be unmuted.
You're unmuted. You're good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, speaking for the SCCIA, I want to say that what City Manager Kerrigan has said and what the mayor said and others, I mean, we are 100% here to do what we need to, what we can do to help. From that standpoint, we're really excited to see this amount of people on this Zoom call. And I just really want to let's get down to some facts, and let's go marching forward and see how we're going to do this all together.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that and your leadership. It's a lot to keep things moving. An important stakeholder group are the merchants, and with us is co-presidents of the merchant organization and effort. And I see both Leyland and Adriana, Blue Aces and Furies Barbershop. I don't know which of you would care to speak, or either. Why don't I start with Leyland, if that's all right? And if you could unmute, and if Adriana, if you want to say anything, that'd be fine. So yeah, Leyland, Furia, floor is yours.
Hey, hi everybody. So we're our little merchant association that works alongside the city and the SCCIA. But what we've been doing is facilitating communication between the merchants and hearing the problems that they're going through via social media or just talking to them. But our goal is to have more frequent meetups via Zoom meetings so that we can hear and collaborate together. So that's what we're doing right now as the Merchant Association. Is just facilitating that communication back and forth between the different entities, since there's so many people involved.
Thank you. That communication's key. Adrian, anything you'd like to say?
No, Leland nailed it right there. We just want to help bridge that gap and really create contributing to the vibrancy of Old Town and bringing everybody together to operate as a collective, and being able to reach all the business owners, not just the ground floor retail businesses, but the service-based businesses and the upper story businesses as well, to get everybody involved and give everyone a voice and be able to bridge those communications and those laps in communications, so that, as Leland said, we can work together to find, better solutions moving forward. So this is wonderful. I'm so happy to see so many faces here today. This is great.
Well, we'll be doing it again. I have a feeling, and there's too much invested to not. So thank you very much. So with that, I think, we can dive more closely into the topic of security downtown. I do want to start, before we get into the Salinas Police Department, with someone that I've known for years, and some of you probably will recognize and know, and that's Tyler Dunn. He's done a terrific job. He's incredibly responsive. He was on scene with some of the issues that surfaced last week. I just asked him to say a few words, even specifically to what was experienced, and if he cared to his observations and the role of allied security. So Tyler, if you're ready, the floor is yours to size up, kind of what happened and your observations, and then we'll get into the police department. Tyler?
Hi, Steve. Thank you. Last week was a little crazy. We had, now it's what I was told as of Tuesday afternoon, there was actually 4 burglaries. Coming in Monday, I immediately encountered a vehicle burglary against Eric, the co-owner of Bearded Bean, had his SUV broken into. And then later through the week, Carrie had her business broken into twice. And then now I've learned that Chris from MaxFit also had his vehicle burglarized. I haven't been able to speak to him just yet about that incident, but it was a busy week last week. Overall, looking back to when I first came out here in 2016 with Uretsky Security, things overall are very, very quiet, very, very calm compared to just the first 6 months I was here. But it's going to happen, and it's largely, these incidents have happened outside of my coverage hours. So it speaks to the fact that our presence is working when we are here. Hopefully tonight we can get some solutions. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. And perhaps this is appropriate for Steve, or you, Tyler, just very briefly, so that everybody can appreciate allied security, the hours that they are hired, and who pays for it. Just very briefly. I know that was of interest.
Well, currently our schedule through the SSCI and Allied Universal is we cover 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. Monday through Wednesday, we're currently covering 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Thursdays and Fridays, we cover 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. to cover the bar traffic on those nights. And then Saturdays, we come back in at 7 and we're here till 3 to cover the market hours. The funding, as far as I understand, comes from the SSCIA, which I know comes through a tax of some sort. So, the people down here, from what I understand, are the people that pay that tax. So I work for them.
Yep. Important to note. And thank you for your service. And to Steve and Joel Panzer and the others on the SCCIA board, there's a lot that goes into the contract, but what hours are optimized and so forth. And we may get into that as the conversation continues. Thank you, Tyler. And I do want to now turn it over to our police chief. And then we have Sergeant Anthony Parker with a bit of a presentation with some of the data that's been requested. So Chief Roberto Felice, decades of experience. He's been incredibly responsive. In fact, today when I talked to him, he's like, should I give everybody my cell phone? I was like, oh my gosh, only the city manager does that. I think he's going to put his email in the chat, and certainly I'm happy to aid. And I've directed a lot of traffic to Chief Felice's phone and email, and he's done a remarkable job. He's also fluent in Italian, if you're interested. But in all seriousness, Chief Felice, Just an overview to the department. I know there's been a lot of rumors as to cutting the police budget, and we're down people, and response times are, going to be into the next day. If you just wanted to briefly kind of the department and zeroing in on downtown before we turn it over to Sergeant Parker.
Thank you, Councilmember McShane. I appreciate it. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me on the Zoom meeting. Hopefully, one of these days we all be able to get together in person, much easier. I can briefly tell you. Well, first of all, I like to tell you that the downtown area is definitely something we're all very proud of. We have invested a lot of money as a city, and from day one, that's been pretty much the marching orders that I got from my boss, Steve Kerrigan, who told me, hey, the downtown has to be a priority. So as an acting chief, certainly I made it a priority. Now, doesn't look good for me because the numbers don't show it, but we actually have a plan that we are addressing the issues with the downtown and with the merchants, and also with security. Because ultimately what it comes down, it's teamwork. It definitely certainly comes down to teamwork. And I will touch that in a second. To give you the status of the police department, it is true. There are a lot of rumors going around. The city council wants to cut the police department. They want to get rid of the police department. I don't know. There's a bunch of crazy talks out there. I've always felt that I've been here 4 years now. So granted, I haven't been here as long as many of you have, but the 4 years that I've been here, I've always felt supported by city council. And even now, I understand they had to make some cuts. I understand why they did it. I still feel very supported as a chief by my council, and especially by my boss. So I definitely have no complaints and no concerns about where we're going as a city and as a police department. Our staffing is what it is right now. The city of Salinas has 148 police officers. Of those 148, 87 are assigned to patrol, and with those 87, I have to cover 4 shifts every day, and 7 days a week, 24/7. So the amount of officers that I can allocate to the downtown area is very limited, because our top priority, and this is not being disrespectful to anybody, it's preserving life. So if we have calls for service that in which somebody's life is in jeopardy, we're going to have to bypass property crimes for life. Nevertheless, we do go back and handle what we have to handle. So for the downtown, again, for us, it is a top priority. And instead of assigning a beat officer to say, hey, come up with a plan, we actually escalated where I have a commander and a sergeant assigned to the plan. And kudos to Sergeant Parker. He's the one that put his hand up and said, Chief, I want to do it. Let me step in and come up with some ideas and some alternatives to what we have. So briefly, I'm going to turn it over to him so he can share with you some of the ideas. We have discussed them. He has my full support to implement those ideas. I think those are a good start. They're definitely a good start to make a difference. The other component to it is I would like to make us more present in the downtown as personnel allows. For instance, one of the things I've done last Friday, I was out there until about 7:45. I was actually in the downtown area. And what I loved the most was to see how vibrant and how busy it was. That's the way we like to see it. I want my business owners, you guys, to be very successful. So I was very happy to see all the people downtown. And tomorrow, I told my secretary to clear my calendar. So tomorrow you might see me in the downtown, because I grabbed one of my sergeants and I said, tomorrow, you and I would be assigned to bike patrol duty. We're going to be in the downtown and check it out ourselves. So you will see this old fart on a bicycle. You are not allowed to laugh at me, but you can wave to me. You can definitely wave to me. I'm good with that. So we definitely take it seriously. And again, we've been analyzing data. One of the things that I will ask you all to do is, please, if a crime occurs to your business, to your vehicles, to your property, you need to report it. Even if it's a small petty crime, it doesn't make a difference. We need to know, because we as a police department live on stats. So we determine trends based on people reporting crimes. You can call the police department, we'll come out. We have an online reporting system if you don't have the time to wait for us to show up. And again, I apologize, there's going to be times that we are going to be delayed in our response. Not because you don't mean anything to us or because it's not important. We're just busy with other calls for service, but we will show up. And just as I shared with the council the night that they decided that they needed to cut, 4 positions from the police department, regardless what you do, the next day we will be here to provide the service. So this is what I can definitely guarantee you and vow to you that we will be there. It might take us a little longer, but we will come. And we will work closely with the local local security. We have a great working relationship with them, and we are helping each other out, and we will continue to do that. We will focus on the homeless issue because that is affecting our downtown greatly. There is no question about it. And we determined that on one of the last burglaries we had. Kudos to my officers. They didn't just take the report, they actually investigated the whole thing. And they were able to track one of the stolen iPads to our homeless encampment. So we were able to retrieve some additional stolen property. And that's what we're going to continue to do. So please be patient with us, but we definitely, See, we're trying to be good, city manager. The light goes off if I don't move enough. So we're saving money. We're being good. So definitely, I guarantee you that we're taking it very seriously, and we are allocating the right resources to provide with solutions. So having said that, Mr. McShane, I'll turn it back over to you so you can transfer to our sergeant.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chief. And for those of you that have joined us, this is our downtown safety meeting. The chat's very robust, and I appreciate people using the chat and being respectful by muting their mics and letting us work through this. We will have a presentation by Sergeant Anthony Parker. He's tried and true and a veteran of the department, one of our best, and certainly appreciate the police department and administrative end of this to dedicate the resources. So Sergeant Parker has a presentation that he's put together with some stats and data that he'll go through relatively quickly. And then we'll have some questions. I just want to acknowledge Dominic Dursa here from Assemblymember Rivas's office. Thank you for joining us. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the CEO of our Salinas Valley Chamber, Paul Farmer, thank you for tuning in. And I see former Mayor Dennis Donahue. Thank you for joining as well. Okay, so Sergeant Parker, the floor is yours.
All right, hello everybody. See a lot of familiar faces. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. What I want to do is run through some numbers here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Is everybody able to see that? All right. So I'm here like you to address the issues we've been having in Salinas City Center as it pertains to property crime, primarily burglaries in the city. I'm sorry, in the Salinas City Center. So we'll talk about the recent uptick. I hope to promote some discussion about what we're doing now currently to combat this spike in crime we've had down there, and also to promote some discussion around solutions, whether short-term or long-term, that we can work together. Salinas PD community members, stakeholders, and staff as well. So now, burglaries 2021, Salinas City Center. From Jan 1 to, my data goes to July 14th of this year, there's been a total of 8 burglaries in Salinas City Center. 100%, and I'll say that again, 100% of these burglaries, according to my data, have occurred in the 300 block of Main Street. So what we need to identify is what has been so appealing about the 300 block of Main. It's making it a primary target, it seems, for burglars. I see that Carrie and Debbie are here from Carrie's Co-op. This is really what brought this issue to the forefront. Here's Carrie, a business owner and trying to make a living and keep her business open in what's been a pretty rough past year now. And she's been hit 3 times in a 1-month period at her store, 345 South Main. 2 of them were burglaries in the late night hours. One was a brazen theft, and correct me, Carrie, if I'm wrong, where the suspect actually smashed a case during business hours and took valuables from that case. So I want to touch on what SPD is doing now to address it, what we are currently doing. So effective last Friday, I began placing a ghost car. And I don't know if any of you guys have seen the marked unit down there in Salinas City Center, but my intent behind that is for it to be a psychological deterrent for would-be thieves. It's unmanned, but it's a marked unit that we are sporadically moving between the 1 and 300 blocks. So it's more of a phantom policing tactic that I thought I would employ, and hopefully we'll see some results there. To clarify that, we're not keeping it in the same spot very long. So I've instructed other police personnel and my fellow supervisors to make sure that car is moved, if not every day, every couple of days between the 1 and 300 blocks. Officers have been instructed to respond to Salinas City Center during their daily duties and their travels, and to make sure they're conducting high visibility patrol in their cars or out on foot, which I've highly encouraged. I've been doing it myself lately, and I met a lot of wonderful people in Salinas City Center, and I know it helps for the police department to establish relations with those who work, own businesses, and people who also eat and shop down there. So as part of the foot patrols, officers have been directed to do what they can to identify suspicious individuals during all watches. As you all know, we're very busy as a police department, and as Chief Elite Chase said, human life takes priority over property crimes. And with the same spirit, we don't want to offend, but that's how it is. Our calls are triaged that way. So whatever effort our officers can put forth in identifying individuals who have been loitering in the area, who might be known criminals or people who commit property crimes, and to actually share that info and intel, not only in-house amongst officers and sworn personnel, but also with you, the community, in a setting like this. Some of you may or may not be aware that we do have cameras in the 200 and 300 block. So those cameras actually provide a high quality live stream feed directly to the watch commander's office. Now, the watch commander on duty at the time may not always be in the office or always monitoring those cameras. However, they can be used in a investigative capacity, or if the watch commander on views somebody who looks suspicious, or even any sort of crime, whether it's a burglary to a vehicle, a burglary to a business, any in progress crime. Let's see here. So what can we do? When I say we, I mean the police department working with the community, stakeholders, business owners, employees, staff. So networking and information sharing, exactly what we're doing right now. This right here, whether it's in a social media forum or a social media outlet such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, getting information out there that we have gathered on the street through patrols, through intelligence, through our experiences, business owners, experiences, victims of crime, that helps us to better combat this. And I must say, what we're doing right now is really the bread and butter of community policing. We've come together, we have a meeting here, police, city officials, business owners, employees, and we've identified the issue. We've identified an issue. We're here to address it. And hopefully through discussion and networking ideas we all may have, we can find some solutions. I know that Chief Felice touched on reporting, and this is very important. In my 15 years as a Salinas police officer, a common theme that I hear is, "Oh, you guys are too busy. I don't want to bother you. You know, it's really minor. It was only my stereo," as an example. Well, yes, it's true. We are busy. As it's no secret, we have a high level of gang violence in our city, and I want to reiterate that no crime is too minor. Now, there might be instances where is referred to the desk or online reporting due to a lack of suspect information, and that may seem discouraging. People, you know, I don't want to go to the police department, or I don't have time to file a report online. What everybody needs to understand is that, as Chief Felice touched on as well, reporting generates data, and with that data, it generates crime trends. We know where the hot spots are. We know who to contact. And it really, let's see if I can, it really leads to actionable intelligence, right? Information that we can work on, that we can apply some of what we're doing now to try and combat what's going on. So I would like to continue the directed foot patrols, and at some point I'm going to be working on a here in the near future. I'm going to be working on a schedule to locate volunteers for dedicated foot patrols. Now, it seems that a lot of these crimes are occurring in the late night, early morning hours. So I'm going to be working on a schedule to try and identify times where it'd be best to have a 2-officer foot patrol in Salinas City Center. Try to help curb some of those. So all of you may or may not be aware, recently the Salinas Police Aerial Support Unit was implemented at the Salinas Police Department. And what it consists of is a multitude of unmanned aerial vehicles, also known as drones, as most people know. We maintain a fleet of these UAVs, and we also have several FAA certified operators to operate these unmanned aerial vehicles. They've proven to be extremely beneficial to our mission, typically used in high-risk incidents, as you may have seen in the, unfortunately, in the recent officer-involved shooting on Smith Street. They're used for high-risk incidents, to include search warrants, and also helping to locate missing persons. So as part of the aerial support unit, I'm going to be exploring having officers who are part of the unit flying routine air patrols, if you will, during the late night hours to give it an extra layer of security there. Another thing to think about is crime prevention through environmental design. I don't know if many people have heard of this, and I'm sure a few of you had with the recent remodel or redesign of the former Old Town, now Salinas City Center, but we need to figure out how we can make it more difficult for criminals, would-be thieves to actually commit crimes in the downtown area. So crime prevention through environmental design is typically in reference to the way buildings are designed. How close am I putting my walking paths to? Do I have call boxes? A lot of college campuses use crime prevention through environmental design. Another component of that, and it's exactly what has been done in Salinas City Center, is revitalizing the area, showing that there's the stakeholders, there's great pride in the businesses, which can be seen from the street. You know, neatly decorated shops, fresh paint, and it goes back to the broken windows theory, where you have one broken window, you have a rundown building, next thing you know, you start seeing other buildings with broken windows, vandalism, that kind of stuff. So for the business owners, what I want to say is our environment, or your environment, is the direct area within where your business is. Not only that, we can think of the environment as being the interior of your store or your shop. On the exterior, we need to think about cameras. Cameras are extremely beneficial. Personally, I like Ring. It has the networking component where everybody can share information, video clips, and photos of suspicious persons or any video captured while somebody is actually committing a crime. I have to say that there have been several times on, I'm now on a day watch, but I was working graveyard shift prior to this. Numerous times we had victims call in who were nowhere near their business, but able to see suspects through their live feed and give us real-time information that led to the arrest of a burglary suspect or a prowler. So we want to think about lighting. We want to think about cameras. How can we make it unattractive to people who are looking to commit burglaries or other property crime? And that goes with vandalism too. I know we have a large tagging issue in the city, whether it be non-gang related or gang related. Another thing I wanted to talk about with environmental design is fortification. I know Carrie, unfortunately, has to do it at her business, but fortification, security doors, anything else that might make it less attractive, make your business less attractive. We also want to think about the interior. Am I leaving the lights on at night? How are my display cases arranged in the store? Do they offer cover, concealment from an officer or any other citizen, community member who might be on the street, and prevent them in the late night hours or maybe in the evening hours from being able to see into the store or your shop or your place of business? Along with that would be posters as well. Do they block the view from the outside of the store? We see that a lot at convenience stores. You know, when I'm out on patrol, I'm rolling by convenience stores, I always look, and you know, from day one on the street, I always look to see what's going on there. And I see it time and time again. You have, you know, your alcohol banners, you have the Slurpee banners, whatever it may be, that actually cover up and conceal what is going on inside of the store. So these are some basic tips that I wanted to share. And I really hope that we continue doing this and sharing information regarding Salinas City Center, and hopefully we'll see it through. So I want to thank you all for listening. And here's my contact information, going back to giving everybody my cell phone number. Feel free to have my number here. Write it down. My email address is there, of course. If you have a life-threatening emergency, call 911. And Salinas Police non-emergency phone number is there on the bottom for you all. So, thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. If you could stop the screen share, that'd be good, and we'll resume. I've gotten some terrific questions submitted, so I'm going to kind of read through them, and I want to make sure we dedicate enough time to get some responses. So, directed at SCCIA, city manager, but the chief, and maybe you want to defer to Sergeant Parker. Just try to keep responses relatively quick. There may even be a question for Tyler. So let's just start with the online reporting of burglaries. Is there a difference, Chief or Sergeant Parker? Is there a difference between online versus showing up at the police service center, calling in 911? Reporting and response. Is there any hierarchy?
So no, there is not. Keep to your point about keeping it short. No, there is not. They're all triage the same. The reason why we have an online reporting system is exactly that, just to make it more convenient for people that maybe they're traveling somewhere, they don't have time to wait for an officer, they can go online, but all reports get triaged the same, so that you don't get any faster response if you show up at the police department.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you, Tyler, in the chat there, for also being active. Appreciated. On the topic of security, questions come up, and why aren't we at 24-hour security downtown? Maybe a word or two, either Tyler or Steve Ish on behalf of SCCIA, because you are providing additional security services above and beyond Salinas Police Department. Anything you can say to request for additional security? You're muted there. Oh, there you go. Just give him 1 second. He's unmuting.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, from a standpoint of, I'm going to speak from the Taylor Farms standpoint. We have 24-hour security. It's one person that is on security from 9 o'clock at night until basically 5 a.m., I believe is the time here in the building. But then they also make trips around various properties that we at Taylor Farms own. And one step that we've already made pretty clear this afternoon is that one person is going to also add the 300 block on the east side of the side of the street, and also the 200 block side of the street. As far as from the SCCIA standpoint, we're going to have a discussion around how could we possibly expand to additional officers, because basically it's until 3 p.m. Is that right, Tyler?
It's only 8 hours a day.
It's about 8 hours a day, what it is. So we as a board have got to have a discussion around that, which obviously that will come down to financial means. Will have to be the big subject of there.
Thank you. Thank you for that response, and to Taylor. And I want to make the point that Allied Security doesn't just contract with SCCIA or Taylor for that matter. If I'm not mistaken, and maybe you can elaborate on this, Tyler, there's, I think, 7 properties that include the banks, the parking structure, the city. Maybe you could just comment on the fact that there's various contracts in addition to SCCIA that have different hours of contracted service and so forth. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Well, Allied certainly has a lot of the contracts in the area. With the closure of Uretsky Security last year and a merger with First Alarm last year around the same time, besides myself and the guards here at Taylor, we have guards at 2 credit unions inside the district, as well as in the area of Steinbach Library, which is currently hired by the city, I believe, through the libraries, which they're getting ready to transition that guard to start covering the inside of the library now that they're open again. As well as the courthouse is an Allied Universal contract, and the county offices is also another Allied Universal contract, and the bus depot just across the street from us here at the MST Salinas Transit Center. And I believe also the Amtrak, the train station, is also another Allied Universal security account just inside the district. I'm working on getting us all communicating with each other. I work very closely with the guards at Taylor Farms. closely with the guard at the transit center and have regular contact with some of the guards at the banks. But I mean, just as I used to run it with Uretsky, when we had a lot of these accounts, including the library and the shelter when it was still by the post office, we all worked very closely together.
Excellent. Thank you. And to that point, there's some takeaways and the city manager is watching. So one of them is to see to it that that networking and that communication is seamless. When SCCIA came online, there was actually some challenges as it related to police reporting and, flow of information between officers and the department and security guards. And a lot of that's been remedied. Another series of questions that had come in related to cameras. And I want to thank Mr. Edwards from Alvarez Technology Group. They're homegrown, they're right outside the district. They mentioned a Deep Sentinel, but this important role of cameras. And I guess the first question is to either the police department or the city manager, how do we expand cameras? City monitored cameras in, say, the alleyway or downtown, and or networking of cameras so that if someone has a security system, they're able to tie it into the Salinas Police Department.
Sure.
Maybe we'll start with the city manager and if it's necessary, go from there.
Yeah, no, actually, Chief Felice's got what we're doing right now, and then I'll follow up with what we're going to do in the future. So, Chief, you want to explain what we're doing right now? I know you have some of that.
Absolutely. So as Sergeant Parker shared with you, we already have some active cameras right now. They're monitoring the downtown, and we try to monitor that as much as possible via the watch commander so that we can see what's going on. We can also record what's going on. I have discussed with the city manager also the possibility of expanding on cameras as we have in other parts of the city. We also received a grant through WASI, which is it's a federal component. We received some speed trailers, and we're starting to put those out. And I know the speed trailers and downtown maybe don't mesh, but here's the issue. Speed trailers also record license plates. So we have license plates that come through the downtown, and that's one thing that's been also beneficial in other parts of the city in solving crimes, because then we can cross-reference those vehicles coming and going, and we've been able to solve issues in other parts of the city. We know that some of the crimes taking place in the downtown are perpetrated by homeless people. So that's a different thing, a different component that we're going to be addressing. But we also want to address the people coming and going through our downtown. And again, to see what the reference is with criminal activities. It's been beneficial in other parts of the city. We're going to start doing it on the downtown also.
Thank you, Chief. And this next one goes back to the city manager again, and that's the role of homelessness. I just want to acknowledge, there was one specific question that came up with regards to the status of the shelter across from the post office, and the role of homelessness. I know the mayor spoke to the share center and so forth, but in particular, aggressive homeless as well. So maybe a word or two outside of just housing and a place to lay your head. How is the city better managing homelessness and especially the impact on downtown?
One last little piece on cameras. I finished when the project was finishing up the last few days of construction. I walked the project with David Jacobs, our public works director. We talked about additional cameras. We know we didn't get enough cameras, so we are going to get more cameras. I cannot tell you the number today, but David and I talked, we needed to have full coverage of the entire 3-block area. So I think the next time we get together, I'll have that answer for you, but he knows we need to have the right amount of cameras to cover the whole downtown. On homelessness, we spent a lot of time and effort and energy investing in the downtown. And I mentioned earlier in my opening comments, we're going to continue with that. We have problems throughout the city. I mentioned we're going to start next week. We have a plan to go into the 48 parks, the waterways. We have a permit that allows me to do this. It's called an MPDES permit. On August 10th, I'll be giving a presentation to the city council explaining what we've done over the next 2 weeks. So prior to August 10th, I'll say, here's what we did from mid-July to August 10th. And then I'm going to say, from August 10th moving forward, here's what we're going to do and how I have the authority to do that, because I do. I'm actually personally and civilly and criminally responsible for these waterways and parks. So I have this permit and I'm using it, and we're going to go out. Like I told you before, we've noticed, we've sent letters to the property owners. We're working with Caltrans, working with Regional Water. Everybody has been supportive. So we're going to roll out our plan starting on Monday. But when it comes to the downtown, I'm certainly working with Chief Felice and the police department. We're going to continue to patrol, but essentially we're going to get out of the cars and start talking to these folks. And we're going to ask them, you know, what are you doing here? I've said it many times. If you've been around me at all, you know, my college roommate's a 3-time convicted felon. I learned a lot about crime from him, and his main point was make them uncomfortable, ask them questions. There are services available, and that's what we're going to ask them. Are you ready to go to services? The second day, we're going to ask them, are you ready for services? And on the third day, we're going to say, why aren't we going to services? And, you know, we're going to make them uncomfortable. They're either going to go to services or they need to go somewhere else. It's just, that's the way it is. So I do have the authority with this MPDES permit to go in the parks and the waterways. And I think our officers have the ability to walk up and say, why aren't, you know, there are beds available. Why aren't you going to a bed? I don't want to be hard on them, but at the same time, I'm going to make them uncomfortable. This has gone on long enough, and it's time to start having hard conversations and awkward conversations with not only the homeless, but the people that are working outside of the housing first model, because housing first works. You get people in housing, they're more likely to take services, but just letting them sleep in the bushes, that's not the answer. And certainly on city property, it's coming to an end. I'm specifically talking about the Steinbeck Library, because I know that folks tend to take naps in the Steinbeck Library. So we're going to get out, we're going to be humane, but at the same time, we're going to make some people uncomfortable. So
that's an important commitment. And as I see past SCCIA President Catherine Krabinsky Evans is on here, this was a huge priority and hasn't been addressed. And as I know, Amy Amaral, we emailed, we talked. Homelessness is not solved as it relates to some of the real challenges you're talking about. I do want to also credit Mayor Kimberly Craig. She made a strong stand on litter debris because litter also was raised as an issue. And I want to touch on that because I came forward as it relates to the downtown, how it's gotten worse. And I know Councilmember Orlando Osornio is on this call as well. He chairs our litter and debris subcommittee. So to the point, I think that came in also, you know, Jason Cook's trash receptacle stolen. Thank you, Jason, you know, for your role in reporting and so forth. But as all the dumpster activity, and I don't know if that goes to, you know, I guess I'll turn it back to you, Steve Ish again, or not Steve Ish, sorry, Steve Kerrigan, as it relates to dumpsters. You know, how do we deal with the dumpsters that are broken into or improperly locked or managed, and litter? So can you speak to those very briefly?
Yeah, very briefly, on the actual trash cans, we need to have kind of almost like a subcommittee of this group so I can work with them in Public Works, because David Jacobs has always been responsive, our Public Works Director, been responsive to how do we better make this work? I know we have trash cans that are locked, some are unlocked, but I would like to get a small group together. We can just talk about trash cans, litter, debris, those things. We do have a committee here at City Hall, and we're rolling out a program. It's called Amor Salinas, and you'll see that on August 10th. We just got these really super cool t-shirts. You're going to see these everywhere. We're handing them out. We're giving them out. Certainly, if you guys want to buy them, that's great. But the program really is modeled after Love Hayward or Love San Jose. And we chose Amor Salinas. We have 3 parts to the program. One is volunteers. The second is the actual plan to go into all 4 corners of the city with the volunteers to clean it up. Ultimately, ending up next year with a full day, all citywide cleanup day on Earth Day. And the third leg to this stool is an education program. We need to get out and really educate young people. Like recycling is kind of the model we're using. You know, it took years, but now everybody recycles. We need to do the same thing with litter and debris. Stop throwing your stuff on the ground, because we can get it picked up. We just got to stop and train people to stop throwing stuff on the ground. So you're going to see this program rolled out in August. I'm really excited about it. I got a chance to pick my team at City Hall. picked an all-star team of folks I think are very talented. I think we've come up with a really good program. The mayor and the council have been fantastic. We have really good budget for this. So I think we're going to clean up the city over the next 12 months, but the trick after that will be keeping it clean. So you're going to hear a
Understood.
lot more about Amor Salinas.
Thank you. Mayor, do you want to comment on that at all before I go into last questions and closing comments?
No, I mean, I know we're on a time schedule and I think Mr. Kerrigan covered it beautifully.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I know it's been a big priority to you. Okay. Yeah, I guess two other important pressing things. First, and I think this kind of got clarified in the chat, but I think it's important to either Sergeant Parker or to the chief, chain of command. If there's something happening, and I know this may be more subjective than anything, do we call on our local security or do we call on the Salinas Police Department? Can you just comment very briefly on, who to call, how to handle it?
So I would definitely let Allied know. Okay, so they're dedicated to city center during the hours they operate. Ultimately, we would like anything, whether it's quality of life issues, theft, burglaries, stolen vehicle, anything along those lines should be reported to Salinas PD. As I said, reports generate data, data generates actionable intelligence for us to be able to work on.
Thank you. And Tyler, if it's possible, the commander on duty cell phone number, I don't know if you want to give that now or if you could put it in the chat. Some people have asked for that. I don't know if that's the appropriate way to summon attention from security, but and most merchants know that and know their officers, so to speak. I'll just put that out there. I guess the last thing, it's a very quick question to Sergeant Parker. My business out on Highway 68 was broken into 5 times. I mean, it was very frustrating. It made KION. Some people may have seen the story. It took a long time before we got it right as it related to cameras, security lighting, and everything. And the Monterey County Sheriff's Department was extremely helpful. They were willing to come out and actually survey and give advice on how we can improve security. Does the Salinas Police Department offer that same sort of service? Can individuals call you and say, hey, come on by, and what can we do a little better?
Formally, take that, Sarge, if I'm
Okay.
Go ahead, Chief.
Council member, absolutely. The answer is yes.
Okay.
We have officers that are trained in SEPTED. We don't have many of them left, unfortunately, because the classes weren't offered any longer for a long time, but we do have officers that are trained in SEPTED, so we can come out and take a look at your business. And I can tell you right now, if you need us to, please feel free to reach out to myself or Sergeant Parker. We will make ourselves available or an officer available where we can go through your business with you and provide some suggestions. Absolutely. We'd love it.
Okay, that means a lot. We're near the end here, and I just want to thank everybody for attending. There were a few other things that I think surfaced. Great suggestion with the crosswalks and pedestrian safety and the signs that had been up to sort of aid people in how to use the new crosswalks downtown. To Chris Carpenter's point about volunteers, I think that goes back to the city manager's point about Amor Salinas. Next month, we'll see a robust campaign that will enlist more volunteers than we've ever seen and really mustered to address litter and safety and many other things. I wish we could have gotten to more tonight, but I think there was a good discussion. As mentioned earlier, this is being recorded, and we'll sort of piece this together so that there can be a good video for people that couldn't make it. To our mayor, Craig, thank you for prioritizing this, and to the city manager, Steve Kerrigan, thank you, to Steve Ish, and to past President Kravinsky Evans. I see you there, Steve, and then Leylin, Adriana, Tyler, the police chief, Sergeant Parker. Tremendous. So I just want to say thank you, and we'll be closing the Zoom call for now, but as Leylin had reached out early and really said, hey, we need to have a conversation. And certainly with what Debbie and Carrie went through, the key is being responsive, being on it, and succeeding in that effort. So I just want to thank everybody for joining for the downtown security meeting this evening, and we're going to go ahead and end on time. So thank you.
Wait.
Oh, yep,
I'm
Leylin, last
sorry.
word.
I just want to say thank you. It is much appreciated for everything and all the help that you guys are giving, and hopefully we can turn this around.
Thank you. Thank you to Debbie and Carrie. Thank you. Yeah. And then Steve Ish. Okay. Last words here.
Last words, okay? So what I would like to propose is somebody from the city, meet me at 9:30 or 10 o'clock in lot number 1. I'll take you over to lot number 1. That's the Greyhound one, I believe, in which case we've done lighting in the Greyhound and we have turned 2 lights onto lot number 1. Then I want to go across to lot number 3 and lot number 5. And you tell me if that's safe or not safe.
There we go. All right.
So I'm up at 9, 10 o'clock tonight. Let's get on this.
All right. Hey, I'll text you as soon as this is over and I'll see you in lot 1 and we'll go to lot 5. Anybody else wants to join? We can hit the King's Den afterward. Tonight's karaoke night. So
No,
thank you.
No.
I know my wife would say the same thing. Thank you very much for attending and have a good Thursday night. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.